He is a monster, he is a butcher, as his name suggests. He is a villain, he's a bad guy.
In Thor: Love and Thunder, not only is Thor trying to find himself, but he also has to deal with finding closure with his ex, Jane Foster, as well as stopping Gorr the God Butcher from, well, butchering the gods. With the relatively new Marvel character making the leap from page to screen, albeit with a different look, let's see how Gorr was brought to live action in the MCU.
The only ones who gods care about is themselves.
Christian Bale, of course, is no stranger to comic book movies, having played Batman in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. It's also definitely not the first time that Bale has played a bad guy, so what convinced the actor to dip his toe into the shadowy role of Gorr?
Taika, Chris, Natalie, Tessa, Thor Ragnarok, and Jojo Rabbit. That sums it up, and then a hell of a good character.
Short and sweet. As for why Taika wanted the former Bat to play the Butcher,
I mean, we always want good actors, in these roles. And for Marvel, it's, they've gone through all the actors. There's hardly anyone left. So, he was one of the last people on earth who hadn't worked with Marvel. I've always loved Christian. I've always, wanted to work with him. I've admired his work for many, many years, right from the Empire of the Sun. And so he was actually at the top of our list right from the beginning, and we didn't ask anyone else.
For those uninitiated with Gorr's backstory, the devout believer and his family lived on a desolate planet forsaken by the gods, yet still depended on their faith to save them. As Gorr's prayers go unanswered and his family dies, he doubts the existence of gods, only to have that doubt replaced by vengeance when he discovers that they are real and are not the benevolent beings he believed they were. For Taika, bringing Gorr's backstory and motives were the most important element he wanted to translate from the comics.
We wanted his backstory, really. We wanted to try and create a sympathetic villain who, the audience could understand, and they could, not side with, but they could, really understand what he was going through.
He's dealing with a great amount of pain. He is a monster, he is a butcher, as his name suggests. He is a villain, he's a bad guy. He's taken his pain and directed it in absolutely the wrong direction. But then we get a wonderful conflict, in that case, between Gorr and Thor.
As for Gorr's physical appearance, it is definitely a departure from the Jason Aaron and Esad Ribic creation. But there are practical and thematic reasons for it.
I was coming off of another film, I had zero muscles. And you can't compete with Chris in that department anyway. So we decided to go with a different approach of his powers being, more supernatural.
In the comics, he obviously looks a certain way. He's basically got a mankini on.
Losing that G-string as well. People might want to see Chris's ass. They don't want to see mine. And then, just lots of conversations between myself and Taika and Nosferatu and Come to Daddy, the Aphex Twin video.
And those influences are clear, as Nosferatu and the music video feature skin and bone, bald, pale beings who creep in the shadows.
A thought very early on was that, his face in the comics, unfortunately, does kind of resemble Voldemort. People are just automatically going to sort of make that connection. So we decided just to depart from that design a bit more and still, keep sort of elements of the tone and the fact that he had the sword. But really it was about his story that was the most important thing for us.
These choices to keep Gorr more human-looking grounds his appearance in the idea of a devout follower practicing religious fasting in order to feel closer to a higher being. And the addition of the tattoos and the subsequent scars on Gorr's face help reinforce that idea.
He's a highly religious character at the beginning with tattoos, displaying his piousness, and then he becomes disillusioned with that, and then, literally just mutilates himself to get rid of that. We did shoot that. It was perhaps a little bit too extreme to be included in the film. But there was a lot of wonderful stuff that we shot.
We didn't show it or over-explain it, but even the scars on his head and stuff like that, you get the idea that the tattoos that they have are all in reverence and in honor of the gods, and that he carved those out and stuff like that. And then with the robe and everything, I really liked that. It was like a holy man who had lost his faith.
The argument for faithful physical adaptation will always rage on, but in Thor: Love and Thunder, Gorr's pain and betrayal are conveyed much more clearly when it's told through a man who has twice forever scarred his skin and has wasted away spending energy praying to selfish gods, rather than from a chiseled space Voldemort. What do you think about the live-action adaptation of Gorr the God Butcher in Thor: Love and Thunder? Let us know in the comments. And for all things MCU, make sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.
All gods will die.